I'm not sure what the date is, but it's around, I think, the 19th of January 2021. Yeah, we're in a severe lockdown at the moment. And yeah, it was interesting. I felt a little bit nervous leaving my flat here in Kinkton to drive to the Forest of Dean, which is about an hour and 20 minutes drive away, to spend some time with some really good friends of really good friends who are just lovely people. We haven't spent that much time together, but we just sort of hit it off. They're very easy to be with. They're sort of, one's a homeopath, another's a yoga teacher, market gardeners, organic, foresters. Glenn is a forester, and Kishe's joined him in the forest, and Ray, their daughter, and Jaya, their son. They're all foresters now, really, I think, in many ways. And foresters are really interesting. They've kind of got their own system there and their own government. So, very deep place, sort of very... not going to go into what I mean by this, really, but a paranormal place. Very spiritual, very ancient. Lots of very interesting stories about plant medicine and wild boars. Had the absolute privilege of experiencing something literally completely unlike anything I'd experienced before, where John, who's kind of become the forest. He lives with mostly women, a group of caravans in the forest at the moment, having lived in Bradley-Stoke in Bristol, which is quite a soulless suburb, I'm told. I do kind of know it because I lived in Bristol for a while when our son was born. I know where it is. It just seems very featureless, and there doesn't seem to be anything for ordinary people there, really, apart from their homes. No green spaces to speak of, not really any shops or schools, just a sort of sprawling, soulless suburb. So I think John had a pretty tough time there, a tough time at school, and just would go and hang out and smoke weed in the park with his mate, or, and avoid getting into fights, basically. That was the plan, that was the effort anyway. One thing led to another, and he moved up to down to the forest and started a family. And then it's been through a tough time. So it's quite a big age gap between his boys. And he ended up basically moving out of his girlfriend's house and moving into the forest and living under a tarp for about 9 months, I believe. Then he met Glenn and Kishe, which are the friends that I'd gone to see, and some other people in the forest. And together, this guy Scott, who seems like a really important character, does something called the Rewild Project. John has found his way into a caravan with this group of around 16, nearly all of whom are women, which is interesting. Single mums, elders, I think one or two sort of old hippies, one or two younger hippies. But yeah, just living in the forest close to the land, obviously. And so John, it's only been there 3 years, but he's just passionate about tanning and butchery, smoking, as in smoking meat, plant medicine, the wisdom of the forest, spirits in the forest, sort of some Christian thought. Very interesting man. So when he and Glenn were out driving through the forest, and they caught a glimpse of a wild boar who'd been hit by a vehicle and whose leg had been broken. I'm not sure if the wild boar had already died or if they killed the wild boar, but the wild boar was brought back in a van to the place where we were staying. And then the night after, the first full day I was there when Glenn and John were together skinning the wild boar, and then in the early stages of butchering it, in preparation for taking it to a more experienced butcher. And it was such a primordial experience, not quite unlike anything I'd have experienced before. And I have eaten meat pretty much all of my life, and of course sanitized and packaged, factory farmed most of it. So I don't think I'll be doing that anymore, really. Having almost communed with this creature. So we had wild boar stew, and then we had sort of pork belly. And because the temperature wasn't below freezing, and the first butcher was unwilling to take the wild boar in because of its bloody state, basically. The wild boar was left in a wheelbarrow overnight and then started to turn, so in fact was returned to the forest as carrion for the local bugs, birds, buzzards, foxes to feast on. Which gave me pause for thought, and then I thought, of course, well, this is just the way of things. Wild boar die in the forest and then they return to the earth. And it's all part of the system, isn't it? Very natural. Very ancient is a better word than natural. It's a wild place, the Forest of Dean. There are many wild boar there. And they're fairly aggressive animals, I believe. Wild. So I just want to make this little video about the theme, really, of oppression, really by the kind of nexus of psychiatry and the pharmaceutical industry. And Kishe was doing what she does. She basically teaches yoga, grows things, looks after people, and cooks pretty much constantly. Cooking great food, freezing it, incredible. It's an incredible place. Glenn works with wood and is a woodsman, and he delivers wood to people all around the forest and beyond. Amazing. Glenn, in fact, has a pretty complex and challenging physical disability as a result of an illness that he incurred, I believe, in his late teens. And he calls himself the wonky carpenter because his body is very, in relation to a typical body, very misshapen, very kind of bent over, and his knees are kind of together. Stoops right over, uses 2 walking sticks. And so we were together with John, I believe, and Ray was dotting in about, because Ray lives in a caravan just outside the home in the lay-by, 2 council houses. And Kishe said, don't cut your arms, cut veg. We were talking about life and mental health and loneliness and purpose and the boar, and so I guess we'd started directly talking about the experience of young men and women who cut their arms. And Kishe just said, I wish you don't cut your arms, cut veg. That would be good. So anyway, for the rest of that day and a little bit of this day, I've been evolving a sort of poem. I think it's a poem or a little story. No, I think it is a poem. And it's called Don't Cut Your Arms, Cut Veg. And I promised a group of people that I was on a listening call tonight in Leeds that I would record this evening. So it's a long preamble. Hadn't really intended it to be so long. Here's the poem. And it finishes with quite a sweary swear word. So, I'm unapologetic about that, because sometimes only a sweary swear word will do. So this is for all of the young people and the older people who are living through a period of intense pain, largely as a result of the oppression of our overly conforming education system integrated with our failing healthcare system, our deliberately toxic pharmaceutical system and our raging capitalist industrial sales of drugs that we don't need, that in fact make us very ill and sadly make many of us hurt ourselves, and far too many of us ultimately kill ourselves. Don't cut your arms, cut veg. When did it start? The cutting thoughts, the battles fought, the loves won and the loves lost. The satisfaction as the sharp blade cuts like razor, razor like cuts. Patterns which are pleasing on the eye, an eye on the prize. What is the prize? Peace, love, dignity. I get it. We get it. You are it. You don't matter. Your soul has been extinguished. You are sick of the dead eyes, staring blankly back at you. Cold, frightening. But here's the thing. I love you. We love you. Regardless of what you've cut. But we would be really happy if you'd come to our house to help us to cut the veg. And then we will light the fire and we'll eat something really, really good and healthy and tasty together. It will be a little, simple, sacred space with the fire and the food and each other. A sacred space for you and for us. Don't cut your arms, love. Cut veg with us on a Wednesday evening, here in the forest where the wild things are, without the doctors and their toxic drugs. Fuck them. Fuck them. Maybe they can come on another night to cut the veg. Instead of making us cut our arms and their drugs. Yeah. Fuck them. I very rarely say this on this channel. In fact, I don't think I've ever said it. But if you do like this poem and this little Forest of Dean shaped preamble, please do subscribe, or I think press the bell means you get notifications. But most importantly, share this one, please, because yeah, those drugs nearly got me, didn't they? And metazapine for 4 years made me feel like I'd gone mad. The salespeople, the salesmen, they are nearly all men. The white salesmen, they are nearly all white salesmen. In America, have spread their poisonous, toxic ways to these lands. And now I'm told that 1 in 6 of us takes an antidepressant. And the research is that's been suppressed by the drug companies for years, that these drugs are very, very toxic, extremely dangerous, to go on, to stay on, to vary dose, and to come off. Take it from someone who knows, because I'm a loving, stable, fortunate man who was loved in the family I grew up in, and who loves my family very much. And I'm currently away from my family as I seek to recover. I'm 13 months in. I stopped taking the metazapine almost exactly a year ago, so it'd be about 350 days ago. It's been quite a bumpy ride, in and out of crisis, backwards and forwards to Beachy Head. It's been very, very grim. I'm still here, got my yellow jacket on, bit of protest, bit of protection. Got to get more yellow jackets on, team. So don't cut your arms, cut veg, and do whatever it is that makes you feel free. Lots of love.